And welcome to our review of this week's The Phuket News, hot off the press. And Simon Ostheimer's having a bit of a break. We're stooping down all the way to Alasdair Forbes, the associate editor.
Stooping? Did I get the word stooping there?
The grand doyen of
yourself.
Phuket journalism. Great to have you here. Alasdair, another great week of news in Phuket. Let's start with, well, we never get to talk about tuk-tuks.
No, not ever. Not ever.
What's the latest with the tuk-tuks?
Well, we got this weird situation where we had 10 days ago, there was a demonstration by genuine licensed tuk-tuk drivers from Patong at the Governor's office, at the Provincial Hall, complaining about black tuk-tuks invading.
The illegal ones.
Yeah, and that's the first time I've heard about these guys. And we asked various officials, and they said, we didn't know about this. These guys come in at night, only at night, and pick up people cheaper than the tuk-tuks, the genuine tuk-tuks.
What a sin.
What is it? I mean, yeah. Yes, cheaper. So yes, and then we had, this week, the Governor was meeting the press, and suddenly this chap pipes up and says, I want you to do something about this. We're being given a hard time by the legitimate tuk-tuks. And he was going, God, it's a black tuk-tuk. He's right there in the Governor's office saying, I demand, pretty much, that you help us, because we're trying to make a living here. We know we're illegal, but we're trying to make a living here. You have to help us. And by the way, if you don't help us, we'll have a demonstration here as well. So these guys don't play about, do they?
And they obviously don't get the irony of what they're saying.
I don't think they do irony very well, no, these guys. No.
We're being scammed. It's shocking.
Yes, I know, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
so, yes.
The Governor, he got a bit of an earful.
Yes, he did. And he was remarkably restrained, I thought. I mean, wonderfully restrained. He said, yes, well, I'll do whatever I can for you, chaps.
Was that, I'll do whatever I can, get them out of here?
Well, I wasn't there.
Yeah.
Our reporters were, but no, basically he just said, I'll do whatever I can for you. What he can do, of course, is probably very limited, since they're illegal.
Exactly.
But we'll see. And, if he doesn't do anything for them very quickly, they'll be around his offices all doing that.
If everything else fails, we'll always have tuk-tuks.
Yep.
Always provide some good news for us. Yep. Now, two expats have had a cheap one-way trip home this week.
Well, yes, I mean, I think they will be having a cheap one-way home. They're probably spending a couple of days in the cells first. There's a Canadian and a Brit who've been arrested for, one was arrested for overstaying. He'd been here for more than 2 years without leaving the country, which is a bit of a no-no. And the other one admitted that actually the reason he didn't have any stamps in his passport at all was because he'd snuck across the border from Malaysia, which again is a bit naughty.
Yeah.
We did hear today, there's been a third one arrested this morning, another Brit.
Well, there's obviously a bit of a campaign going on.
There is a campaign. They're looking at their records, and they are having a campaign. They're having a crackdown on people overstaying. So if you're overstaying, watch it.
Now, dengue fever's sort of gone a bit quiet in the news the last couple of months, but there seems to be a campaign to warn people that there is a bit of a
Well, it is. I mean, the
problem.
fact is, the number of cases is more than double last year.
Really?
So it's really quite serious.
Is there any reason that the health people are pointing out for this rise in dengue fever cases?
Well, I think they want awareness. They want people to protect themselves. You can actually go to any hospital, any health clinic, local authority offices, and get free spray to keep mosquitoes away. Free.
Yeah,
They're duty free, because it's cheaper to give away the spray than it is to have to treat you in the hospital for dengue.
Of course.
But I don't think a lot of people knew that.
We've had a few staff here, even at Class Act Media, down with dengue fever over the last couple of years.
I've never had it, thank God, but it's very unpleasant.
Debilitating. You're out of commission for
weeks.
6 to 8 weeks.
Yes.
Yeah.
And very unpleasant. It feels very strange. A nickname for it is breakbone fever, because your joints hurt so badly it feels like your bones are breaking. I'm told. So not at all pleasant. Plus, if you get it more than once, you're in danger of getting dengue hemorrhagic, which is a lot more dangerous.
Is there an outbreak of dengue fever in Phuket?
Well, we get it every year. The alarming thing this year is that there's a lot more cases all over Thailand. And I'm not sure where that is, and it's not been explained by the authorities. I'm not even sure whether they know. They're just counting the numbers.
Yeah.
And there is a lot more dengue this year.
And we should remind people that there's nothing you can do. Once you've got it, you've really just got to live through it.
Yep.
And you probably will. The best way to avoid it is to not get it in the first place.
Quite right. It's a virus, so as we all know, viruses mutate fairly rapidly. So it's no good looking for some kind of magic fix to keep dengue away from you. There's no way of doing that.
Yeah.
You have to protect yourself.
Alasdair, this is probably the most interesting story I've seen all year. It's on page 7 of this week's The Phuket News. Could you just give us a sort of a 30-second encapsulation of what it's about? It's a fascinating story.
It is rather bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. This is the case of 22 school children who went on a trip to Phang. They're 13 to 15 years old. And
we need a bit of like spooky music in the background of the story. This is really weird.
Yes. So while they were there, they all suddenly started falling down, not quite foaming at the mouth, but screaming, kicking their heels, generally behaving as if they were sort of possessed.
Yes.
22 of them, one boy and 21 girls.
Yeah.
And so they took them to hospital in Phang. It wasn't mentioned in the news at all. I think they managed to keep it quiet. But then, on Monday, at school assembly, there they are, they're running up the flag at school, and the same 22 kids all start falling over and having fits again.
And they've taken them to hospital, given them Valium, calmed them down, and no one's really got any reason why this has happened.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's described as what was it called?
Something hysteria.
Mass psychogenic illness. Basically, mass hysteria.
Yeah.
It's not new. I mean, it's been happening throughout history.
It happens here at Class Act Media regularly.
Maybe in your department more than mine. I don't allow that. But yeah, no, and it's been happening. If you look back into history, there's a lot of occasions when this has happened through history.
Yeah, didn't you read the memo? Turn your phone off before we.
I turned off the sound, and it's still making noises.
Oh, it's the boss. You better answer it.
This is good TV, isn't it?
Let's move on to Life magazine. So the two papers, and when you get the Phuket News, then you get the Life magazine.
Yep.
And the front of Life magazine this week is all about Laguna.
Yeah.
But inside is the real treasure, and it's a trip to Bagan.
Yes, a nice story about Bagan and what to find there, and interesting people to meet and so on. Bagan, I've never been to Burma. I'm one of those people who thinks that you shouldn't go to countries that have nasty governments that kill people, and I still think that about Burma. I have to admit. Sorry, Myanmar. What they're doing.
What is it this week, Myanmar or Burma?
It's still Myanmar. It has been for quite a few years now.
Yes.
But it takes a while for this old brain to turn around.
Old habits die hard.
But what's been happening with the Rohingya is totally unconscionable.
Yes.
And what they've been saying, like, we're going to stop them having more than 2 babies and so on. This is not a government one should support.
All right.
At all. So I won't be going there.
Okay, but it's not that you're not supporting the government. No. It's also the people that are suffering if you don't go.
Yeah, you can argue that, can't you?
Yeah,
yes,
you're not spending your dollars, and so they remain in poverty, and they remain not knowing about what's the good things that are happening outside Burma.
I suspect that something like 80% of all the tourist income goes straight into the hands of the people at the top and not to the people at the bottom.
Okay.
So it's my own personal feeling.
Yeah.
But that said, reading about this, I'm thinking, if the government wasn't horrible, I'd be there tomorrow.
It looks a really fascinating area.
Oh yeah, Bagan. Well, Bagan is a world treasure. I mean, it's a fabulous place.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good piece to read.
Another great article in Life magazine this week is another feel-good story about the soy dog, the magnificent work they do up there in Macau.
Yeah, no, they have been. They've been, and elsewhere. This whole campaign against dog meat.
Yes, the illegal trade
Not
of
meat
dog
for
meat.
dogs, but dogs for meat.
Yeah.
Which they've been pushing very hard. But yeah, they're still doing the same thing up in Macau. They have neutered hundreds of thousands of dogs, or at least tens of thousands, over the last few years. It's beginning to show. When I first came here, you would see a lot of mangy, beaten up dogs on the streets and on the beaches.
Yep.
Now there really are not that many. It's paying off. It really is. And successive officials don't get it, and they each have to be educated. But it's working. It's working.
The thing about Phuket, that at least it's a controlled situation because it is an island, and they can almost control it.
Yeah.
Besides a few dogs probably making their way across the bridge. But I've noticed the same. In the 10 years, I suppose, from when I first came here to now, there is a definite difference in the number of mangy dogs walking around.
Yeah, the quality of life for these dogs that do remain on the streets is a lot better.
Yeah.
They're less threatening because they
don't
have to worry.
Compete.
Exactly, they're not having to compete so much.
Yeah.
And because they're all being snipped, they're not breeding. So.
The other good thing is these dogs, now that they're sort of gone through a few generations, they're actually great pets. And if you get them early, and they're a very hardy breed.
Oh yes, and soy dog has its own place where they take strays, particularly strays that have been injured or knocked over by cars or have got illnesses and so on. They fix them up, and then you can adopt them, which is a far better way of doing things than going down to the market and buying some little puppy which is far too young to be sold, which may or may not be genuinely a genuine breed, purebred.
And probably something small and yappy that you really don't want in your house anyway.
Well, yeah, and you know, the other
sad... stop me breaking in.
The other sad thing, of course, is that people think it's cute to have puppies.
Yeah.
But puppies grow into bigger dogs.
That's right.
And then they're not so cute, so boot them out.
Alasdair, another great edition of the Phuket News, and you are taking the top job for a few weeks with the boss away.
Well, yes, unfortunately, yes. Well,
think of the pay rise. What did you do for American Independence Day? Nothing.
No, well, I'm not American, so why would I? What did you do?
I went to a couple of events and filmed them in the pouring rain.
Oh, okay.
Things I do for jobs.
It's always crashing other people's parties.
Life magazine, and you've got the Phuket News out at over 600 locations around Phuket, and it's the best 20 baht that you've ever spent.
I'd say so.
Alasdair, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for
on Phuket News TV.